Hi, everyone. Lisa Haven here. Well, the battle for our freedom starts now, and it's happening right now in Congress, where the Democratic Party are taking up to their tyrannical pulpit and voting on impeachment against the President of the United States of America. And I believe it's going to pass there in the House. I don't believe it'll pass in the Senate, but I do hope President Trump gets the long trial that he wants so we can start seeing people like Adam Schiff having to answer for their crimes. Now, that's a side note, but needless to say, I've got a ton of things to talk about. One of those being the letter from the President of the United States to Mrs. Nancy Pelosi. And I actually can't wait to get into this with you because Trump points out a ton of facts that we need to know about. But right after this letter was issued, of course, the unexpected happens against the president. And I'm going to get into that also. But let's go first to this letter. All right, so here we are on whitehouse.gov. Letter from President Donald J. Trump to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, published December 17th. Now, I'm going to skim through it. I'm not going to read every portion. I'm just going to kind of highlight. But here it says, Dear Madam Speaker, I write to express my strongest and most powerful protest against the partisan impeachment crusade being pursued by the Democrats in the House of Representatives. This impeachment represents an unprecedented and unconstitutional abuse of power by Democrat lawmakers, unequal in nearly 2.5 centuries in America legislative history, and it is unequal. They are doing this thing unfairly. The articles of impeachment introduced by the House Judiciary Committee are not recognizable under any standard of the constitutional theory, interpretation, or jurisprudence. They include no crimes, no misdemeanor, no offense whatsoever. You have cheapened the importance of the very ugly word impeachment. Amen. And I can't but second that times 100. By proceeding with your invalid impeachment, you are violating your oaths of office. You are breaking your allegiance to the Constitution. You are declaring open war on America democracy. You invoke the founding fathers in pursuit of this election nullification scheme, yet your spiteful actions display unfettered contempt for America's founders, and your erroneous conduct threatens to destroy that which our founders pledged their very lives to build. Even worse than offending the founding fathers, you are offending Americans of faith by continually saying, I pray for the president, when you know the statement is not true, unless it is meant in a negative sense. It is a terrible thing you are doing, but you will have to live with it and not I. You are turning a policy disagreement between two branches of government into an impeachable offense. It is no more legitimate than the executive branch charging members of Congress with crimes for the lawful exercise of legislative power. And that's exactly what they've done. This isn't about anything other than their bias against the president. No crime. Nothing has been committed by the president. They're just causing tension. And personally, I believe they're bringing this tension to cause, well, a civil war or some kind of chaos and protest above and beyond normal in this country. It goes on a little bit. You know full well that Vice President Biden used his office and $1 billion of our aid money to coerce Ukraine into firing the prosecutor who was digging into the company, paying his son millions of dollars. We know this because Biden openly stated it in front of the public. But yet, instead of going after Biden, they accuse the president of what Biden has actually done. You see how they're twisting and corroding everything? And he makes statement to that. You are trying to impeach me by falsely accusing me of what Joe Biden has actually admitted he actually did, right? Then this next section here just gets into his evidence against President Zelensky, also his claim on their obstruction of justice, which really has no claim. And then he gets back in here about, basically this is all about you guys trying to uproot the 2016 election and going forward into the 2020 election. And he caps it with this: you view democracy as your enemy. And I have to agree that many in the Democratic Party, that's exactly what they're doing. And the other thing that he points out that I think is important here is Pelosi admitted last week at a public forum that her party's impeachment effort has been going on for 2.5 years, long before they even heard about the phone call with Ukraine, which tells and should tell the American people that this is just about a political bias. 100% based off of that statement. And it's not just Pelosi doing that. It's many within her own party, right? Moving on a little bit, he gets into Adam Schiff and his lying to the American people. And here he gets into how good of a job he is doing and how they're ignoring that. Then he gets in here after all the investigations and finding nothing in Russia. They still yet bring that on him. And I'm summarizing again, just so, we kind of can get through this. And then there's this. You are the ones interfering in America's election. You are the ones submerging our democracy. You are the ones obstructing justice. And you are the ones bringing pain and suffering to our republic for your own selfish person and political partisan gain. And here's the thing. Why is it that the Democrats are allowed to do all these things? We have Joe Biden committing a crime, and then the Democratic Party is telling everyone to look the other way. There is something seriously wrong. And I think President Trump has every right to be as bold as he is, because we did not elect a politician. We elected a businessman, and he is playing the role exactly as he should. Somebody has to get in there and do this job and drain the swamp, right? The next paragraph, he just talks about the hoax of the impeachment there. And then he gets in here, if you truly cared about freedom, right, then you would be devoting your time to looking into the abuses of the FBI, the FISA court, all the stuff that they had, and how corrupt that they are. And he says, instead of them looking into that, basically, she had a press conference the day that they announced impeachment. She then tied the impeachment effort directly to the completely discredited Russian hoax. One that's already been discredited, one that hasn't been proven true. And yet this means that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats are in bed with the intelligence community and don't plan at all on taking any action against them, nor do they care to. But then President Trump goes on to say, but the American people are basically onto you. Anyone who goes against or the president basically goes to impeachment, basically they're at risk of, getting voted out come our election season. And then it says this, worse, he says, I have still been deprived of constitutional due process from the beginning of this impeachment scam right up to the present. I have been denied the most fundamental rights afforded by the Constitution, including the right to present evidence, to have my own counsel president, to confront my accusers, to call and cross-examine witnesses like the so-called whistleblower who started the entire hoax with a false report on a phone call that bears no relationship to the actual phone call that was made. And once I presented the transcribed call, which surprised and shocked the Frosters. They never thought that he'd actually present it, right? The so-called whistleblower and second whistleblower disappeared because they got caught. And that's the bottom line. And they totally did. And then he says, more due process was afforded to those accused in the Salem witch trials. And he's right on that one yet again. This is nothing more than a legal partisan attempted coup that will be based on recent sentiment badly fail at the voting booth. You are not just after me as president, you are after the entire Republican Party. But because of this colossal injustice, our party is more united than it has ever been. History will judge you harshly as you proceed with this impeachment charade. Your legacy will be that of turning the House of Representatives from a revered legislative body into a star chamber of partisan persecution. Powerful. Perhaps the most insulting of your false display. You apparently have little respect for the American people, that you expect them to believe that you are approaching this impeachment somberly. We all know that you're not, Miss Pelosi. We know. No intelligent person believes what you are saying. Since the moment I won the election, the Democratic Party has been basically on impeachment fever. There is no somber affair. You are making a mockery of the impeachment, and you are scarcely concealing your hatred. I mean, she really is. And tens of millions of Americans are onto it. The voters are wise, and they are seeing straight through your empty, hollow, and dangerous games that you are playing. And I have no doubt, he says, that basically the people in America are not going to forget this, and that we are going to take it to the ballot box. And that's exactly what I hope that we do. Now, a lot of people are criticizing on the mainstream media, of course, and really have their own Trump derangement syndrome. But again, we did not elect a politician. We elected a man who could drain the freaking swamp, and that's exactly what he's doing. As a result of this letter, then bang, the mainstream media, of course, goes on full-fledged attack mode. Here's just a few of the articles. CNN, the 30 most blistering lines from Donald Trump's unhinged letter to Pelosi. Look, how about we read it for ourselves rather than listening to CNN? Here's another. VanityFair.com, Trump pens deranged 6-page impeachment letter, mails it to Nancy Pelosi. Good, she needed it. Here's another, Politico.com. Read Donald Trump's scathing letter, he says, to Nancy Pelosi. Fact check. Of course they have to fact check the president's letter. Trump's letter is littered with falsehood. Okay, right. Okay, just more BS. BusinessInsider.com. It's really sick. Nancy Pelosi responds to Trump's wildly inaccurate letter on the eve of his likely impeachment. No, it's not an inaccurate letter, but this is basically how Pelosi responds. She goes, it's it's really sick, she says. Well, let me tell you something, Miss Pelosi, what you're doing is sick, lying to the American people and all the corruption. But thankfully, we have a strong president of the United States of America who's going to get through your House facade of an impeachment. Speaking of the House impeachment vote, I won't have the final for you by the end of this video, but I'm going to assume that the impeachment goes through at the House. You can see the update here going forward. You can see we have basically all no's from the Republican Party as of right now. Obviously, that could change, but the Trump impeachment vote now underway to impeach the president of the United States of America based on a hoax. And what does President Trump say? He says this: can you believe that I will be impeached today by the radical left, do-nothing Democrats, and I did nothing wrong? A terrible thing. Read the transcript. This should never happen to another president again. Say a prayer. And I say amen to that. Let me end with this. I am thankful to God that we have a president like Donald J. Trump who has the audacity to write letters like this and expose the truth of what's really going on to false agents like Nancy Pelosi, Chucky Schumer, and Adam Schiff, who are literally trying to take over the country and give power of the United States of America away to the United Nations and global dictating bodies. America needs to wake up. We don't realize what's at stake here. You guys do, the ones listening, but there is a sleeping giant. Then we need to wake the heck up. Our freedoms are at risk, and right now they're at risk more than ever before as they vote to impeach the president of the United States of America. It will happen in the House. It's not going to happen in the Senate. And we're going to make sure we're going to pray and stand it and support the president financially. This is a corruption on so many levels. Yes, I'm mad. You should be too. They've called our president a xenophobe, a homophobe, an anti-feminist, a racist, a bigot. I mean, really? Accused him of sexual crimes, accused him of colluding with foreigners and trying to sell out our election, which, by the way, is everything the Democrats have done and there's actual evidence for. But not one gets convicted and sent to prison. Meanwhile, if you support the president, we have President Trump's allies being sent to jail for really no crimes. The crimes that they committed are minuscule compared to the crimes of the Democratic Party. Let's put it that way. Everyone should not be happy about the way things are going, and I think we need to keep that close to heart. Anyhow, you know I love you guys. I'm going to ask you to share this far and wide. Get the message out. Let's hear what the president has to say and forget the mainstream media. Screw CNN, MSNBC, and their falsified versions of the story. Let's read the actual source and encourage people to do so. Well, anyhow, please don't forget to check out my partner, NobleGoldInvestments.com. Truly, if you don't have a Roth IRA, please get one. The economy could be set off at any moment, especially with what they're doing to the president of the United States. I guarantee you that they're going to attempt to do it at some point in time, especially if Trump gets elected. So keep your 401ks safe. Call them today. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.